What did you learn from your last unsuccessful relationship? Don't wait around for someone who isn't sure about you. Don't date someone just to be dating someone because it's been a while since your last real relationship. It's fine being on your own for a while romantically, as long as you're surrounding yourself with quality platonic friendships. Christian does not equal non-abusive, respectful and kind. I learned a lot about toxicity, how it can bring out the worst in everyone involved, and when it's time to cut something off before it spins out of control. Don't date a drinker when you're not one yourself. Don't put the rest of your life aside. When they leave, you are then left with nothing. That actions speak louder than words. People are who they are, not who you wish they would be. Loving someone and wanting a future with them won't stop them from being a toxic person, and the only good option with toxic people is to get them out of your life, even if it hurts. Don't put up with being unhappy in the relationship. Just because you both grew up in abusive households doesn't mean the other person will be reluctant to abuse you. This so much. I dated a boy who came from a family similar to mine. Same patterns of abuse. We talked a lot about it and swore we would not pass that shit down. We were dating in grad school. No real obstacles. Real life was still some distance away, but I began getting a feeling that if I married him, it would be the same kind of abuse. I began having nightmares about it. I had no facts to justify it, because he was very nice and kind, but I couldn't take it anymore and I broke it off. I felt like an idiot for the next few years as he met someone else pretty soon after, and married her, and I didn't meet anyone good. Eventually I met someone and married them as well. Years later, we met, and got talking about our marriages. His wife and his dynamic was the same dysfunctional one as my parents and his parents, and his wife had had enough, and he, just like my father, refused to seek therapy and the abuse just kept going. If they admit to mental health issues, try harder to make sure they are getting the help they need and play a more active role. One thing I learned from mine was that when they really don't want to be helped, it's best to just walk away. That I'm actually ready to be in a relationship and am capable of feeling romantic feelings. I had spent the past 5 years kind of just assuming that I was incapable of love or relationships. It's nice to know that I'm not. That you can't make yourself like someone just because they really like you. That makes me sound like a bad person, but the relationship was really only based on the fact that he liked me and was around all the time. It lasted 3 years and just got progressively less fun until we decided to call it quits. Sometimes people can seem loving, caring and tolerant on the outside, but actually be judgmental and self-centered. Why would you attack me like this? I learned that it's impossible to help someone who has been unhappy for so long that they're far from being able to admit that they need help. For my birthday she took me on a surprise trip, then afterwards complained that I had not paid for it. I learned that she was not the type of person I was going to continue dating. Don't have naive or overly lofty expectations for a relationship, or else you will set yourself up for disappointment, if not frustration. Sometimes as two people grow together, they also grow apart, into vastly different people, and that's okay. It sucks. But it's better that you recognize it instead of letting things go too much longer if you're not making each other happy anymore. Living in the basement of the ex-husband and his wife with the kids, rent-free and not working, is not normal and not acceptable, regardless of how good the arrangements and getting along very well approach. If she gets fired from 10 jobs in 6 years because nobody can stand working with her, that's a red flag. Cheating is a non-negotiable red flag. Refusing to take responsibility is a red flag. Ignoring your SO is worse than arguing against your SO, which are both infinitely worse than communicating with one another about the topic at hand. And the best one, you have to love yourself more than you love being in a relationship. I have poor boundaries and I'm too eager to please while simultaneously being too demanding. Accepting that life happens and sometimes two great people are not great for each other. You can't love away the depression. She self-medicated with alcohol, and my love wasn't enough to make her stop drinking. It takes two to make it work, and I was the only one doing any work. hoping if I worked hard enough, he would love me back as much as I loved him. Doesn't work that way. Sometimes the only way forward is to let a smoldering dumpster fire put itself out. You can love each other as much as you can, but if you're not compatible when it comes to kids, future goals, etc., it's just not going to work out. Everyone has a quirk. Everyone. Even you just might not know what it is. Day-to-day survival of a relationship can depend on how you react to this quirk. I dated a lot of guys who would just annoy the piss out of me daily with their quirks, and I'm not contributing our breakups solely to these habits. But it definitely didn't help to be annoyed or disgusted on the daily by your partner. It took me some time to realize that this is just a part of who they are and I will never be able to change that. Learn to accept people for the funny little things they do. Sometimes, their mental health is not an excuse to stay with someone. Sometimes, you just need to let that go and it is not your responsibility to keep them healthy. If something does happen to them, it's not your fault. You can't fix someone's mental health. They can only do that themselves. Sometimes it is your fault and you were the toxic person, but it doesn't make you a bad person. Just improve on yourself and get rid of bad habits. If you start the relationship by editing yourself and hiding the parts of you that you think they won't like, it's a trap and you'll never be able to be yourself. Tears will follow. Do yourself a favor and at a reasonable point in the early relationship, be vulnerable and tell them all the things about yourself you're afraid of admitting. They'll find them out eventually anyway. Dating someone you like won't help you get over someone you still worship. Don't trust people if they've broken up with you 5 times and everything they say is inconsistent. Even ugly guys can play you. That while it's noble to fight for the relationship, it's not always what's best for both of you, especially if you feel that the two of you aren't fighting the same fight. And despite what movies and books may tell you, love alone isn't enough. We had been together for 8 years. She had gained some weight. And where I still thought she was beautiful, she lost confidence in herself. This made her jealous and she ended up picking fights a lot. And I fought right back. I don't like the person I was when I was looking for ways to hurt her out of revenge. She used to be social with me, going out, seeing people, doing things, etc. But it slowly changed. I proposed to her out of fear of losing her. She told a mutual friend that if I didn't propose by the 3rd anniversary, she would leave me. Luckily, we didn't get married, because I kept telling her that we needed to work on our issues before marriage. A piece of jewelry will not stop the jealousy. We ended up having another bad fight one day. She left me at the bar. It was my birthday and she was my ride. And when I got home, I packed and left for good. We're still friends. And we get along better than we did when we were together. There was no cheating from either of us. And I'm now married to the correct woman. I needed to quit smoking to increase the selection quality. Don't bother giving cheaters a second chance. The trust never comes back. Listen to your gut. Just because someone needs you doesn't mean you have to stay with them. He was a depressed alcoholic who couldn't hold down a job because of narcissism. I stayed with him for years longer than I should have because I was worried about what would happen to him if I left him. I had to completely emotionally disengage from the world to keep myself together. He had to leave the city after I dumped him. No idea how he's doing now, but I'm mentally much healthier. If someone acts like they don't care, it's because they don't care. I learned what is healthy in a relationship, and what is unhealthy, abusive. When you're in an abusive situation, it's very hard to see it. You're blind to all that is wrong with this person you love. You believe this is the best that you will get, that there will be no better. You start to feel as if it's all your fault and you deserve every horrific thing said and done to you. I learned that this is not what any relationship should be like, regardless of whether it is a romantic relationship, a friendship, or even your family. If my partner doesn't ask me questions about my feelings and thoughts, that partner isn't worth having. I do this a lot and I need my partner to meet me in this. I feel that asking questions and actually listening to your partner is essential for understanding each other. Asking honest questions for the pure sake of understanding, especially when things have been heated, is for me the roadmap to truly solving issues and building trust in a relationship. Don't put effort with people who don't put in any. She and her friends would laugh at me for being in a sexless relationship. I was blind, and kept my head high thinking I was doing the right thing because I was being a good partner and sticking by her and willing to bend, adjust however needed to be a good man. Reality, I was used for almost a decade, and emotionally abused. Now I'm so broken I don't even date. But I learned blind loyalty isn't a good thing. If she cheats on her previous boyfriend with you, don't expect her to suddenly become completely faithful in her relationship with you. My mother, aunts, and friend of my mother's would always say, my ex-boyfriend was madly in love with my, treated me very well, I would had a plush life. I didn't realize how unhappy with my ex, till I met my husband and fell in love. My ex and I took a break to figure out what was wrong with me. I learned that it's an amazing feeling to be loved, and to love that person back. Sometimes the timing isn't right and that's not really anybody's fault. But at the same time, if the timing is never right, over and over again, well maybe it means I have to figure out what I really want from life. Ultimately led to me reevaluating ending my current relationship for logistical reasons. There's only a finite number of women around who will put up with my bullshit. Can't burn through them all.